Welcome to No More Desire, where we build a mindset and lifestyle for lasting recovery from porn. My name's Jake Castleman, and I'm excited to dive in with you. Let's get started, my friend.
The irony with ADHD is that you need structure. You need a structure to function, but the corporate structures often don't work for you, or they work to a certain extent and other parts of it you learn to hate. It's not a moral failing that I find certain things difficult. It is literally how my brain is wired. It's my biochemistry. And there are things I can do to support it, but it's never going to change. I'm never going to become a neurotypical person. A lot of kids who are diagnosed with ADHD don't have ADHD. They're just addicted to technology. It literally is rewiring our brains, and it's giving us a much shorter attention span, especially the short form content.
Do you ever feel unfocused, unmotivated, or disconnected? Do you feel an intense drive to create, build, pursue, and do something meaningful, but your brain keeps getting in the way? Is procrastination a constant habit for you, despite all your responsibilities and the reasons you have to engage, get things done, and push forward? Your will to accomplish simply falls short of your ambition. ADHD and pornography addiction go hand in hand, my friend. They are both dopamine disorders, meaning they both involve the same brain chemical that drives focus, motivation, and direction. So when we don't have enough dopamine, we can experience both ADHD and pornography addiction. And many men I've worked with do struggle with both of these. The world will tell you that you can't do anything about these issues, ADHD or pornography, that it's genetic that you struggle with ADHD, and it's something you simply need to be medicated for. The world will also tell you that once an addict, always an addict. I disagree with both of these sentiments, my friend. While challenges like ADHD or susceptibility to addiction may follow us for a lifetime, there are profound ways we can significantly improve these struggles, grow our capacities, and heal our brains. Today's guest, Ania Hulsman, specializes in coaching adults with neurodivergence, including ADHD, into higher ways of living. Ania is a peak performance coach with over 2,000 coaching hours and 7 years trained in-house under Tony Robbins. Ania brings rigorous professional grounding and hard-won lived experience to the conversation. Her Lighthouse Leader framework helps people stop performing an exhausting, polished version of themselves and start leading from a place of genuine wholeness, visible, grounded, and impossible to ignore. In this episode, Ania and I discuss the realities of ADHD and other neurodivergent challenges and how these things can become our superpowers. We also discuss grounded, real-life strategies to improve our focus and motivation and overcome porn addiction. On top of it all, I must say that Ania is a genuinely fun, good, and skilled individual, and I deeply enjoyed our conversation. Before we dive in, please rate, like, and follow this podcast. It's a huge help to my team and the growth of this show, and it helps us bring you the latest in porn addiction recovery and personal growth. Let's get moving. Ania Hulsman, peak performance coach for the gloriously unboxable. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. I love hearing you use my tag because it's such a cool one. It always makes me smile.
It is. It really is so cool. When I saw it on your website, I was like, I love that. That just makes me happy. And just your facial expression and everything on your home screen, I'm just like, yes, I want to talk to this person. So it's a pleasure to have you on. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Today, I want to kind of start out. We're going to center in on ADHD and addiction today. These are highly correlated and connected. And I want to just start by saying something about this, and then we'll dive into kind of our first question and start the conversation. Addiction itself is often not the original problem. I'd say it's pretty much never the original problem. It's our nervous system or our brain's attempt to escape life, get away from the way things are, the pressures that we carry, the shame that we carry. For neurodivergent people or those with ADHD, whether they are diagnosed or not diagnosed, healing requires far more than willpower. A lot of people will say, well, why don't you just stop doing that? And that feels impossible, obviously, with addiction. But then ADHD also comes with a lot of those messages too, where people say, well, just do this or just try this. And they feel like they can't.
Like it's so easy.
Right. Yes. So it requires us, we've got to understand the brain. We need to know how to release the shame. We've got to learn how our body and our mind operate and build a life that works with our wiring, as you say, rather than against it. So I'm excited to talk about that today. Tell people kind of more about what you do and what led you to this work personally. I think we'll start there, if that sounds good.
That's a great place to start. So I work with gloriously unboxable people, and that's my really positive way of saying neurodivergent, basically. People whose brains just don't follow the regular way of working. And typically they've been people who felt ashamed for who they are or how they work growing up, especially if they were never diagnosed. So I think if you get an early diagnosis, there is an opportunity to get the right support. And if you have the right support, then it's never a problem, right? But when you're being forced to fit into a system that was never built for a brain like yours or mine, and I'm talking sort of more generally for this community, then you do feel like, whatever you do, it's, you have a tendency to try and force yourself to be a round peg in a square hole. And that's really, really stressful. And it can lead to all sorts of what's the word I'm looking for? Self-medicating.
Self-shame. Oh, yes.
Behaviors, right? For me, for example, I was a terrible binge eater when I was a teenager because I couldn't deal with all the emotions that I was having and the challenges that I had. And for other people, it can be anything, like even addiction to porn, which is why we're having this conversation today. So I work with gloriously unboxable people who just want to stop feeling ashamed for how they're wired and to embrace it and learn how to work with their wiring so that they can thrive, design their life around it, because context is everything.
Yes.
And
then
there was my personal story that I was meant to talk about as well. So the thing about me is that I do have ADHD, and I can, I'm also perimenopausal, which adds to the fun. And it means that I can forget
so
things.
Fun.
I can forget what I'm saying. I can actually forget what I'm saying mid-sentence, which is horrifying at times.
That will make this conversation all the more fun.
It does make it fun. So feel free to remind me if I go completely off topic. But so my story is that I was undiagnosed. I actually was quite good at school, apart from English and maths, which I still did reasonably well in, but they were the places where I could not perform as well as, I couldn't show my intelligence in. So I got slightly lower grades, still, good. Let's just say I'm in the UK system, I got B's in those subjects and A's and everything else, right? And so I was clearly intelligent, and I always had very intelligent friends. But I went to university and studied languages, which retrospectively maybe wasn't the best option. But basically what happened to me is that my 20s, I had no idea who I was. I just followed the paths that people suggested to me because I had no idea who I was. I was very, very heavily masking. And I didn't really know what I wanted. And it was only when I reached my late 20s, like 28, 29, when I made the first real decision to follow what I was really deeply interested and passionate about, rather than just something that I was good at. And that's when I actually transitioned into coaching, which I've been now doing for like 15, 16 years. And so I had no idea who I was in my 20s. And I still found it took me a really long time. I'm now 46. It took me a really long time to peel off those layers. It was a lot of personal development work, a lot of confronting what's the right word here?
Your demons or skeletons in your closet?
Say that again?
I said that you're confronting your demons or the skeletons in the closet. That's what I was thinking. But
yeah,
you're thinking of something else.
I was thinking more that there were situations, which I'm also happy to talk about, where I thought X was true about myself, and it turned out that it wasn't true. So I'll give you one example because I think this is a really good one. I was a total victim when I was in my younger years, right? I literally defined myself by the fact that I had had a hard life, and I would tell everyone about it. And to be really specific,
that sounds familiar. It sounds familiar to me, by the way.
Yeah,
very familiar.
I bet it does. I had a difficult family set up, broken family. My parents ended up hating each other. Although my mum was always tried to be diplomatic about my dad, and my dad just was in a terrible place. And then when I was 17, my dad actually died in an accident. So that is how I started to define myself. So I would tell everybody, "Hi, my name is Ania. How are you?" Yes, so my dad died when I was 17, and it was almost that quick that I would define myself by the passing of my father, right? And somebody once said this to me, said, "Do you know that you do that?" And I absolutely denied it. No way. There's no way that I do that. But then, of course, the next time I met somebody new, I suddenly noticed that I wanted to tell them that my dad had died. And this was in my early 20s. So, it was maybe like 5 years, 6 years, 7 years earlier. And I was still defining myself by that. And I was almost shocked, actually, that this was actually true, that it wasn't that it just came up in conversation. It was that I wanted to tell people because I wanted to be acknowledged for the strength and bravery, for having got through such a difficult part of my, life without a father, and that he died. And so I had to stop. And it took a lot of self-awareness for me to stop doing that particular thing. And it was extremely confronting, right? I didn't like that is who I had become. But I realized that I didn't know how else to define myself, because I just didn't know who I was. I just knew that people would react positively, give me praise for being a survivor, let's just say, of losing a parent at a young age, fairly young age.
Yes. And I think we actually do this very commonly when it comes to addiction as well. And obviously there's complexities to it, but often the victim mentality plays a heavy role and we victimize ourselves in a lot of ways, where we continue this cycle of punishing and destroying ourselves and delaying the dreams that we have and the person that we want to be, because this addiction is holding us back. And it's, if only I didn't have this problem, and if only I could just overcome this, and why is this ruining my life? And we're stuck in that victim mentality of I can't come out.
Yeah, if I can add to that. So I've never been a porn addict, but I'm familiar with being an addict of food, right? Because that's what I did when I was addicted to, when I was a binge eater. And I did purge a little bit, but I soon realized that was a really bad idea. And I could tell you about some of the strategies I used, which were, clever in a way, but also didn't solve the problem. But it was also the addiction, the victim who drove the addiction as well. So I would tell myself, I've had a really hard day. I deserve this food. I need it, actually. Yes. Mm-hmm. And also, and we talked about this previously in our conversation, it's just with porn, it's kind of socially acceptable to do it. And eating is obviously socially acceptable. Also, binge eating is socially acceptable. I don't know whether you're familiar with the Bridget Jones movies or books, or any of these. I think it's almost in every program where you especially where you have women who get treated badly or dumped by a boyfriend. What do? They buy a tub of ice cream and they eat the entire thing, which is apparently socially acceptable, but is the worst thing you could possibly do. And also drinking, obviously, is socially acceptable. Had a hard day, have a drink. And so we can justify with the poor me, we can justify the action, but actually all it does is it perpetuates the problem.
Yeah. Yes. And I think it's so interesting that whereas pornography, and I know in some sense it's socially accepted, but there are many circles where it's not. It's very taboo and it's very hush-hush and hidden, where something like binge eating or having a drink, right, is very common practice, not good for us. It's numbing the pain. It's not actually engaging with what we're going through and being able to work through it in a healthy way and talk to people about it or connect with people or have some kind of a grounding hobby that we do. It's, I'm just going to take this substance, or, well, in both cases, take a substance, whether it's eating or alcohol. And in this case, it's just I'm taking in, right, when it comes to pornography, I am taking in a substance through my eyes, right? And I'm going to use this in order to numb me or help me feel better. Same function, right? Same function, only in one case.
The same. And you're giving yourself a little bit of a dopamine hit, maybe an oxytocin hit. I don't know, like the biochemistry that goes with addiction, but I can imagine that you're stimulating quite a few of those feel good neurotransmitters.
Yes, unfortunately, the dopamine is a heavy press on dopamine. Pornography, engaging with pornography is, according to some research, 300% of the dopaminergic release of actual sexual engagement in real life. 300%, because novel experiences, whatever you want to experience, fantasy-wise, people-wise, right? You have access to all of it in an instant. You can switch and flip between, 100 different individuals in a matter of minutes. So the dopamine release from that is crazy. And then it's obviously often coupled with masturbation. And so then there's a serotonin release, there's an oxytocin release. It is then bonding you to a screen, right? And from a relationship perspective, you're talking about, now my brain expects that someone I'll have a relationship with will endlessly entertain me, will fulfill all my needs, will not demand anything of me. That really, really messes with the mind. Big time.
It really does. Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah. Yes. So when it comes to ADHD, a lot of people hear ADHD, they think distractibility, they think maybe procrastination or being disorganized. When we talk about ADHD, or other neurodivergence in general, perhaps, but ADHD specifically, we talk about that in addiction. What is the core connection people need to understand first with reference to how does ADHD lead into addiction for a lot of people?
Yeah. The core relationship is the dopamine. So if you have ADHD, you have a lower base level of dopamine to a neurotypical person who doesn't have ADHD. So what that means is that you are dopamine seeking all the time. That is your that's your foundation. And if something isn't interesting and you're not motivated, you can't do it. So I don't know whether your listeners are familiar with the fact that dopamine is the motivation molecule. You know, dopamine is what gets you out of your chair and gets you doing something. It's what gets you to go and have a meal so you don't starve, or drink water so you don't die of thirst. That makes you go to work so that you can pay your bills. And where you have low dopamine, and I suspect that some people have lower dopamine than others, so that it's also a scale. It's really like the lower your dopamine, the more novelty seeking you will be, the more you'll look for dopamine in places to invigorate you, to get you moving, to engage you in life. And so that is why it's so. I don't want to say that just because if you have ADHD you're going to have an addiction, but that is why there is much closer relationship between ADHD and addictions. And it it's not that you have one you must have the other, but it's much easier to get addicted to things if you have low dopamine as a base level.
And it's this really vicious cycle, right? From a neuroscience perspective, because, okay, let's say that I am someone with lower dopamine, perhaps naturally, genetically, or through my nurturing or whatever I've been doing growing up as a child, teenager, etc. Now I am far more prone towards seeking out novelty and excitement and, some way of getting that high, right? Because in general, I don't feel as motivated or focused, and I'm trying to get that spike, right? It's actually my body is trying to seek to feel better, okay? And so then I'll seek out porn or drugs or alcohol, whatever it is. And then because that spikes my dopamine so high and then it crashes below my dopamine baseline, now I feel even less focused, less motivated, less connected to the people around me. And so I'm more in that ADHD zone, and then I'll seek out more addiction. And so it's this relentless cycle that people get into.
Yeah. There is actually a statistic that those with ADHD statistically live 10 years less. They have 10 years shorter life than those who don't. And it's on account of dopamine-seeking activities which lead to death, so accidental deaths, and the comorbidity, so depression and such, that can lead to premature loss of life as well, which is very sad.
Yes, 100%. And so, Ania, when you were sharing your story, I related to it on so many levels, honestly. And I think about my own life in that throughout my childhood, teenage years, a lot of it, I can't really remember what it was like as a child, to be honest. But as a teenager, I know that I really, really struggled to focus. And I didn't know that
because it was just my life. Like I just assumed, yeah, it's just really, really hard to get stuff done in school. And I got good grades because I had a high expectation of myself and wanted to perform at a high level. But the thing for me is I noticed that when I got into my own business, my performance just skyrocketed. Whereas in working for someone, being employed, I jumped from job to job, multiple different fields. Nothing ever really captured me. I got bored and I didn't recognize that that's what it was. I had all sorts of other excuses and reasons of why I was going to switch to the next field.
There are always the excuses. There are always the justifications. I think the longest time that I ever stayed in a job before I became a coach was 18 months. Everything else was like,
oh my gosh,
6 months.
Yeah, that sounds like my life pattern. That's how it was. And for me, I know in the background throughout my 20s, it really started when I was 18. I had a sense inside me. For me, it's very much a spiritual sense, I believe, which was I want to help people with their brains, right? You wanted to become a coach. I wanted to become a coach, right? And help people with their brains. And for me, that came down to addiction that I wanted to help people with, right? But what I do in this space is helping people with their lifestyle and their mindset in order to experience recovery, right? That's what I wanted to do, but I was absolutely terrified of pursuing that for multiple different reasons. What will people think? Will I be successful at it? Could I even do that? I don't know where to start. It seems so big and massive. I want it to be this huge thing, right? And I had a hard time breaking it down to just start a podcast or like just join an addiction group and like start helping some people. I didn't break it down to be that small. And so I just procrastinated it endlessly throughout my 20s and ran from that. And I could get a lot into what that did to me mentally. But until I finally accepted, look, this is who I am. Like I want to do something meaningful. I'm a passionate person. And so I've got to use that passion. Then I feel like I could do this work, 12 hours a day and still be motivated to do more, where it was always this grind and always this struggle that I had a lot of techniques and a lot of things I did spiritually and mentally to adapt to that with employers and things, but it was nothing like going off and doing my own thing. Is so much more motivating.
Interesting. That's why there is a disproportionately higher number of neurodivergent people who are business owners and entrepreneurs than there are in the general population. So there's an overrepresentation for exactly those reasons. Yeah. I could never do a boring job, and I could never do a job which was against my values. Give you an example of that. I worked in recruitment for a short time in the city of London, and it was so cutthroat. And I remember this. I remember this really vividly. I had 2 candidates for one position, and my thinking was, well, the company has hired us. Which of these candidates would best suit the company? Whereas my boss said, no, think about which one of these could we more easily place somewhere else so that we could get 2 commission twice. And I thought that's so, like, I couldn't do it. I couldn't stomach that at all. So I didn't stay there. I think I was in that job for 3 months only. And I've never really had a problem with motivation because I could only do jobs that I was interested in. Like I literally cannot I would not be able to make myself do a job which I find boring. Like even doing my
total sense.
Is like, yeah. I was going to say that even doing my accounting is like pulling teeth, and I need a lot of support to be able to do that. It's not because it's not because it's hard, because it's, I can do it. It's not complicated. It's just so boring for me that I need like all sorts of systems and supports to make sure I get it done. Yeah.
Totally. And for obviously not, I'd like for everybody to be able to have their own business, and I totally advocate for that. I'm like, everybody deserves to live their dreams. I really do genuinely feel that way, but not everybody is, right? So what are some of those supports and systems and things that you use when it comes to maybe something you're not so passionate about and that is harder to get motivated with? What are some of those things that you do to
So
bolster
I
yourself?
am going to answer that question, but
Mhm.
before I do, I feel like, well, you see, this is an ADHD moment, D moment. I had something I wanted to say, and I was like, this is really important. I'm going to say it.
Yes.
And then because I wanted
Yes.
to let you finish your sentence and not jump in, I forgot what I was going to say.
It's par for the course. It's par for the
Oh,
course,
dear.
Ania.
Oh, now I've remembered. Okay. So that little interlude helped me remember.
That's good.
Now I've forgotten again. You can totally edit this out if you want.
It's great though. It's really authentic.
This is my life.
Yes.
This is it. Structure. That's what I was going to say. So, what
Yes.
I have noticed is that ADHDers who come out of corporate life, which is super structured, can often really struggle when they become entrepreneurs because they lack the structure. So the irony with ADHD is that you need structure. You need a structure to work with to function. But the corporate structures often don't work for you, or they work to a certain extent, and other parts of it you learn to hate, right? So I was also a teacher in my previous life. And
Yeah.
the structure was so rigid and it was so fast paced, and it expected so much sort of detail admin type work from me that I could not thrive in that job. So I thought that I hated structure, but actually it was the wrong structure for me. I need structure. I love structure. Structure loves me, but it needs to be the right structure that is built around how my brain works. So one of the challenges I have is that I don't process very quickly. I need time, and then I process very deeply, but I'm not super fast, like some people can be, and even some neurodivergent people. Right? It's not that just happens to be my profile, and so yes, whilst it can be really great for an ADHD to go out there and start their own business. It's also important to realize that you do need systems and structures to support you so that you don't end up being really busy and getting nothing done, which I have also done, by the way.
That sounds like my first business. That's what I did. Really busy and getting nothing done.
Exactly. So supports and systems. So accountability is really important. So, and if you start off as a solopreneur, of course, you're the only one there and there's nobody holding you accountable. So it's really easy to go off on some rabbit hole and start 20 new projects and not finish a single one. And so it's a really good idea to find someone, and it can be a coach. So I support people with this. I hold them accountable, or it could be your spouse. It could be a really good friend, someone who is willing to hold you accountable on a regular basis and challenge you on what you're actually doing. So that's really important.
I think I needed that so badly, and I didn't do it because I was I don't want anybody to tell me what to do, right? But that's not. But
And then
I think I still need
fear of
that.
failure as well that we have to overcome, right?
Right. Yes.
When you grow up with especially undiagnosed ADHD, it feels like you try a lot of stuff and it doesn't work out and there's no logic to it. People might call you lazy and you're like, I worked really, really hard on that. And, how can you call me lazy? And so you can develop a really negative relationship with failure. And for me, I had a lot of shame around how my brain worked because, I didn't understand it. And for me, diagnosis and understanding neurodivergence actually was incredibly liberating, because it made me realize it's not a moral failing that I find certain things difficult. It is literally how my brain is wired. It's my biochemistry. And there are things I can do to support it, but it's never going to change. I'm never going to become a neurotypical person, right? So, so that's something to be aware of, is what's your relationship like with failure? How willing are you to try things and get them wrong? And are you willing to talk to people about that?
Andrew was dedicated. He was a good father, husband, and a high-level professional at a successful firm. He prided himself on quality work, service, and being there for those he loved. But underneath it all, Andrew was carrying a secret: his addiction to porn he'd had for more than 30 years. Andrew had never told anyone about his challenge. He'd kept it hidden, even as he served in significant roles in his church, continuing to appear like he had everything together. The day his wife found out was traumatic. Andrew felt ruined, and his wife felt betrayed. He didn't know what to do and doubted that he could ever overcome the habit he'd carried secretly for so many years. He began trying to will his way into recovery. He'd make it a few days or a little longer between relapses, but he could never get rid of it. When we started working together, Andrew told me I'm not a feelings guy. But after a few months, he learned that he carried stress, shame, and fear around with him, and he didn't even know it. He also learned that these unconscious emotions were fueling his cravings for porn. I taught him how to become deeply aware of these emotions, how to relate to them and respond to them in a healthy way, bringing peace to his mind and diminishing his cravings. We also developed daily routines, boundaries, mindfulness exercises, and I gave him relationship guidance and a community to support him. He experienced a total ecosystem for recovery. Andrew is over a year sober today. I'm really happy for him. Here's what he had to say. I'd struggled with porn addiction for more than 30 years. Working with Jake has taught me new habits, real processes that I can work into my daily routine. Jake genuinely cares about my well-being and success. I feel like I'm now able to be more present and that I can deepen my relationships with those I love. I never thought that I'd live a life free of porn. If you are struggling with porn addiction, head to nomodesire.com/coaching to learn more and create your own success story. All right, back to the show.
No, it's so good. And I think about how, for me, and everybody's mind functions differently, and you need to find how yours does, right? Which is part of what you do, personalized with people. How can we work with your wiring? Because for me, I found if I don't have, I don't want someone to give me at 9 a.m. you're going to do this, at 9:30 a.m. you're going to do this, right? But I do want a general structure, and I can be creative within that structure. Tell me, I need a what, but don't give me the how. I'll determine the how, right? And that was really hard when I started my business, because I did spend so many hours diving into rabbit holes and focusing on little meaningless details and things. And I needed to learn how to give myself some structure. And I will actually give myself deadlines sometimes so that I will race to the finish, because otherwise I'll get so nuanced in little details. And so learning how to actually set up that structure independently was really big. But then also allowing myself to, if I have a task list for the day, sometimes it's which of these do I feel internally motivated to pursue right now? And sometimes it's not based on that. Sometimes you just got to get something done and you got to pursue it. But I allow myself to go deep into things, because that is how my mind works, is it processes very, very deeply. And sometimes it's so much so to the point where I have to watch myself, because I become fixated and obsessive, and it's all I'm thinking about all day long. And my wife is like, oh my gosh, if you say that one more time, or you want to talk about that one more time, I'm going to lose my mind. She's become so patient with me, honestly. But I have to watch myself there, that I don't sink into that and only think about that one thing. And then finally I come up for air, a month or two later, and I'm like, oh, where have I been? I've been gone in this world of parts work or this world of this course I was creating or this world, I was just gone in it, So
Yeah,
I really need to watch that too.
I love that. Yeah. I mean, what that is hyperfocus, right? Which is a superpower. I mean, what happens with hyperfocus is that you can get more done than the average person. I talk to people who say they can get, when they are in hyperfocus mode, they can get in 2 or 3 days, they can get done what a regular person would get done in 2 or 3 weeks. It's like, it's so intense and they're so productive. But there is a cost to it, right?
Yeah.
The cost can be exhaustion, burnout. And so you do have to, and everybody, again, everyone's different. Like, even when we talk about ADHD, every ADHDer will have a slightly different profile, and different, additional, I'm going to call them quirks. So it's important for you to really, that's why it's so important to do the work, right? Understand yourself better so you know what support you need. So I love what you said. And I also really love what you said about that some days you look at your list and like, what can I do today rather than what do I need to do? I have, again, going back to being perimenopausal, I have days where, my brain is like barely in first gear, let alone getting into third or fourth gear. And so I have to be really kind to myself on those days. And some days I'm like, okay, I'm just going to do this one thing and I'm going to take the rest of the day off because it's not going to serve me to keep pushing and then end up exhausted, not being able to sleep because I'm too tired, and then having the, fallout effect the following days. So it does require a lot of self-compassion. And again, one of the wonderful things about being self-employed or an entrepreneur is that you get to design those things. You get to design around your brain. Like, you can create that spaciousness and where you can hyper-focus for like 14 hours a day for a whole week and then take a whole week off to recover.
Yes. No, I think, and for me, what I started doing in my life is, speaking of structure, but also building motivation momentum, I discovered that how I started my day determined so much of how the rest of the day went. Not always, and sometimes you have hard things that come up or you go through difficult things, but I needed to really get into this rhythm of, in the mornings, I'm in prayer and meditation, I'm reading scripture, I'm exercising, and I'm doing breath work. Because I start my day that way, that like really ramps up the motivation and the focus so that I can carry that with me and get more in that flow. Because some people just wake up and they just go out. When they say that, I'm like, that provokes so much anxiety in me. Like, I'm like, I don't even know how you just like get up and just go out and don't have something to ground and structure you, because my mind is just chaos. It's so busy and it's just going, and I can't do that. Well, that's how I lived, actually. That's how I lived all my teenage years, and I wound up in multiple addictions. And this is one of the primary things I replaced it with, is how do I ground myself, bring myself into a place of steadiness? I had to,
Spot on. I've also found myself in a similar place to you. I don't touch my phone until a good hour to hour and a half after I've woken up. I charge it downstairs because I know if it's next to me in the morning, first thing I'm going to do is go on the phone. And once I'm on the phone, it's like a time void. Like I have no idea where the time goes or what I'm doing, because I just noticed this, I noticed that, and it does get me into this hyper mode, and that's when I get that really chaotic brain and start struggling to focus on one thing and stick to one thing. So I need to stay away from technology first thing. And I also, I actually only implemented it maybe 6 or 9 months ago, where I go for daily walks in the morning. So I dropped my kids off at school, and I always had this excuse that I didn't have the time, right? But I learned that if I drop my kids at school, I've got like a minimum of 20 minutes, and sometimes I often push it to half an hour. And there's a beautiful heath near where their school is, and I will just go for a walk. And that movement changed so much for me, because it meant it gave me a clearer mind. Also, you don't scroll, hopefully, don't scroll while you're walking in nature.
Walking, yes.
I might listen to long form content. I might listen to a podcast. I might make a phone call to a friend, but that's all. And sometimes I don't. Sometimes I just listen to, some spiritual, let's call it spiritual music, but like music, vibey music, not like, pop stuff.
Nice.
Nice. And it really, that has massively changed my life. And so I love that you said this. I think that if you can add a meditation practice, like you have a prayer practice, connect to yourself, then you're super boosting your brain at that point and helping you to focus in the right direction, rather than be a victim, going back to that term, to modern life and your wiring, which makes it even more challenging if you indeed have that kind of wiring.
Yes. And I think you mentioned technology. I think it plays a massive role in all of this. And I'd love to discuss kind of what your insights are on that. Let's just start there. What are your insights on how technology is contributing to ADHD? And then obviously that is then leading into addiction.
Yeah. For those who don't see me on camera, I keep looking down because I actually am writing keywords down to keep me focused and stay on topic in this conversation.
I know. I love it. I love it. And I will do that often as well myself. I have a notebook in front of me. So
I am pointing that out because there's no shame in that. I'm using a strategy that supports me to show up at my best, and there is no shame in that at all. So you're saying technology, how that leads into ADHD. There are a lot of psychiatrists, psychotherapists nowadays who are saying that a lot of kids who are diagnosed with ADHD don't have ADHD. They're just addicted to technology. It literally is rewiring our brains, and it's giving us a much shorter attention span, especially the short form content. So anything that's a short little dopamine hit. I am on social media. I'm mainly on LinkedIn because I much prefer the longer form content. And I notice that if I'm on Instagram or TikTok or any of those others, my brain starts getting really hyper. So, the best thing to do is to really observe, how is your brain reacting to the technology? Can you be, how many hours or minutes can you be without your phone, right? And if it's not for very long before you start checking again, you have to check in with yourself whether that's who you want to be and how you want to support yourself and function in the world. Again, no judgment, because again, this is the modern day. This is how we're what everybody does. But there are a number of people who started to ditch mobile phones completely. I heard Ed Sheeran, Simon Cowell also completely ditched smartphones because they don't like the impact that it has on them and how it affects their brains. And that's for everybody, whether you are neurodivergent or not. So it's something to be really conscious of and protect yourself against. And again, it doesn't mean that you can't use it, but perhaps you could, instead of short form content, switch to longer form content, which doesn't affect your brain in the same way.
Yes, 100%. And actually, I'm working on this in my own personal life, because I'm looking to take kind of my ability to be present and in the moment to a greater level. I've realized that since I was, a little kid, like 4 years old, I've never my whole life, I don't want to say been off of technology, but had technology really minimal. As a kid, it was TV and video games, right? Then as a teen, it was also those, but then I went to, cell phones, then smartphone. And then when I was 18, I got off of video games and stopped them because I realized how much it impacted my ability to focus and feel motivated and my recovery. It played right into my addiction because of the dopamine spikes and the entertainment seeking and the instant gratification. I just realized I can't do this anymore and be sober. That made my sobriety so much easier to attain with reference to pornography. And then, so I've realized my smartphone has been, and even though I don't scroll social media or do things like that, for me, it's task lists and calendar and email and checking, paying off, bank statements and just whatever busyness I can be caught up in. I easily get in the habit of every time, I get in the car, I check my phone. I get out of the car, I'm checking my phone, right? I check the time and then it's like, oh, what notifications are here? It's always taking me out of the present and it's training my brain to not be here and be attentive. And that impacts my whole family, right? My relationship with my wife and kids. That's one of the primary reasons. And so I sent out an email yesterday. I've been working on this for a while. Sent out an email to my audience that I am getting rid of my smartphone.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It's like having a baby or something, right? It's such a big deal. People are like, you're doing
a big
what?
Deal.
How are you doing that?
Yeah.
Well, thank you. I have the dumb phone or the flip phone coming today. And I don't have it on right now, but I have a watch, right? A physical watch that's analog. Imagine that. I have a pocket planner that I purchased. So I'm keeping this in my pocket rather than using my digital calendar and task list. I'm using this as my task list and planner. So I've taken all these steps and reading paper books. I've done audiobooks forever. And I'm not saying, of course I'll still listen sometimes here and there, but all these things I've been exploring. I'm like, how could I actually set this up? Because I've thought about it for years and I'm actually doing that. And I've minimized the use of the smartphone so much. And I just have it. It's like a handheld computer now for the most part, right? And once I set up this flip phone, that'll be my phone. And then I can just have the smartphone I need to use it as a camera and stuff like that. So it's like, well, yeah, it's a camera and just won't have any more phone service.
You can do lots of things to minimize it without getting rid of it. I mean, I applaud you and I think that it's great what you're doing. But if someone listening to this isn't ready to get rid of their smartphone, you can turn off all of your notifications, which I've done, for example. I don't have notifications actually I have WhatsApp on there, but I don't also, that's my maybe that's my little guilty pleasure is WhatsApp. Don't have any other notifications. And I have it on silent the whole time. So it doesn't ping and I don't react to any pings. And you can put it on grayscale as well to make it actually really boring to look at.
I've done that. Yes, I've done that as well. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
Ultimately, getting rid of it, I think, is the ultimate peace of mind. So I think this is fantastic, and I'd love to hear what else opens up for you as you go down this route. But one of the things that I wrote down earlier and right at the beginning of our conversation, it triggered a thought in me. I wrote down for Vipassana. Have you heard of that? Do you know what that is?
So that's something to do with yoga, correct? Vipassana.
So Vipassana
I don't know what it means specifically.
It's the 10-day silent retreat, which is part of Eastern philosophy. I guess it could be related to yoga in some way. I don't exactly know the roots, but I think it.
Oh, I'm totally wrong. Yeah, I'm like thinking of like Shavasana. It's
not Shavasana, which I also rate very highly, but Vipassana. So
right.
I've never done it myself, but it is it's one of these things that I'm working my way up to. I know I have a lot of clients who've done it. And the idea is that you go into silence for 10 days in a, where do monks live? In that place.
Monastery?
In a monastery. Yeah. There you go. Or it can be, it doesn't have to be a monastery. You can do it by yourself, or you can go to a place where it's facilitated, right? And the people who I've spoken to, they say like the first 3 days are like sheer hell. For 3 days, you're being confronted with your thoughts. I can only imagine. Your brain is going crazy and you're trying to talk yourself out of it. And I'm going to leave. This is awful. I've got pain. I don't get enough to eat. Like every kind of justification for sabotaging yourself comes through your mind. But if you get through those first 3 days, in day 4, you start feeling free. And your mind becomes free, and you stop having this sort of need for stimulation. And the people tend to then go back year on year because it's so liberating. And then it also I think it again, I might be a little. I don't know how accurate I'm being here, but from my memory, which is not great. You then the protocol is to then meditate twice a day for an hour to help maintain that state. And there's today more than ever, I think this is a practice which helps to liberate us from this addiction to this constant, never-ending stimulation that we're getting, whether that's through adverts, through movies, Netflix, these are on-demand TV stations, the social media, texting, we used to, before the day of phones, you used to go round to somebody's house to have a chat to them. And then you'd have a proper conversation and not just sending memes to each other or cat videos, which are funny, but also very distracting.
I love that you say this, Ania, because I think about, and this is a gradual thing, right? For me, it's been diminishing my use of the smartphone for years, right? And diminishing my use of television for years. I actually fasted TV for 6 months, and it did so much for me mentally and emotionally and feeling more focused and happier. And but what I found happening was I was still using my smartphone, and I get in these cycles where I'm really, really good, and I'm like, okay, I'm minimizing the use of it, I'm putting it away, and then I'll slowly but surely I'll pull it out again, and I'm checking all those notifications and doing all that stuff again. And so this time I said, look, I'm ready. Like I guess for me, it was I'm sick of this. I'm sick of this. I'm done with it. And so I chose to make that change, right? Which we'll see how it goes. Obviously, the phone's coming today. There could be an unforeseen issue, and I hope to navigate that well, right? In what inconveniences there might be. I know one of them is going to be, look, I am not going to T9 text. That's not happening.
I don't know.
So I actually have
T9 text.
Oh, so okay. So T9 texting on a flip phone or a dumb phone, you have the 10. Is it 10 keys? Yeah, 10 keys, right? 1 through 9, and then a 0. And so you text on that like we used to do forever ago.
Yeah. I
right. The ABC. Yeah. So T9 is interpretive, but it takes forever to send like a 1-sentence text. I'm like, I'm not going to do that. And so the phone I got, and I'm not promoted or anything by this, but Sunbeam is a phone company that has these dumb phones, right? It's part of what they sell. And they have a service called Number Link. And so what that enables you to do is to text on any device. So my plan, who knows how it'll work out, but my plan is to sit down in like the morning and the evening and just text on my computer, right? So send out those couple of texts so I can still keep in touch with people that way. But then other than that, if I'm out and about and somebody texts me, I'll probably just call them or just not get back to them, right? And so people will be like, "Why are you calling me right now?" Like, I already know people are going to be weirded out by that, but we
Only
used to do that all the time,
Yeah, only at the
right?
beginning, as people get used to you in your new dumb phone reality.
Dumb
But
phone phase,
yeah, they will.
right?
No,
Dumb phone era.
people will get used to it. It's like when I became a vegetarian. Like all my family, like, what? You don't eat meat? I'm not a vegetarian anymore, by the way. But when I went through that,
Yeah.
You don't eat meat? Oh, okay. And then, do you still not eat meat? No. Okay. And I was a vegetarian for 7 years. And people got used to it. So that when I started eating meat again, they were totally weirded out by that. Do eat meat, but you don't eat dairy. Now I'm confused.
You don't eat dairy now? Is that right?
I don't
Did you
eat
switch
dairy
over
or
to that?
gluten now, no, or sugar, but that's
Oh my gosh. Okay. It's so funny the number of similarities. So when it comes to addiction and recovery, one of the major changes I made was my diet as well. And that impacted my ability my mood, my focus, my cravings directly. That correlation was major for me in cutting out dairy, and just, it depends on the person. For me, my body does not do well with it, right? And cutting out processed sugar, cutting out a lot of the processed foods, it was huge for me.
I I'm a huge advocate also of that kind of dietary change, because if you're getting brain fogs and IBS symptoms from what you're eating, you are going to look for comfort or some kind of stimulation, something to get your brain going. Of course, it's going to be easier for you to develop an addiction to something. So
Yes.
Eat clean. Like
100%.
I eat super clean. It's like it's super, super duper important to me, and it makes
I'm
a
the same way.
huge difference. I would not have half the capacity I have right now if I to do work and do the things that I do if I ate junk food or any of the, even like dairy is not necessarily a junk food, but it was simply causing me problems. Yeah. We've talked about so many different
I am the
things.
same way. Right? I know. Isn't it amazing? No, I am so much the same way. So
I wanted to
think,
jump back.
did you have something else you wanted to talk about? Yeah.
I just wanted to
go ahead.
jump back because I was talking earlier about how difficult I find accounting and how I have structures in place to support me. One of the things that I do is I have accountability. So my husband is my accountability partner here, and he definitely knows how to make me feel like I have to do it right now or else. But one of the things that I found to be hugely liberating, and I never even realized what an impact it had on me, is sensory stimulation. So one thing is light. I'm very affected by light, and I find that if I can, if I have the right light, so I have a daylight lamp here. I love daylight. I can't bear office strip lights. That really helps me. But also daylight exposure earlier on in the day is another reason why I do my walks, by the way, why it's outside. I love that. Even in terrible weather.
That's
it's
great.
Really, really important. The other thing is music. So I put on, and I didn't really have a word for it, but there are these on Spotify hyper-focus playlists where they play different types of music, but it's not pop music, it's not sing-along music, it's more atmospheric music.
Yep.
And I find that it helps me to focus and stay focused and finish the job. And it will, again, it's not going to be the same for everybody. Some people actually, some ADHDers like music which they can sing along to, because there's a sort of multitasking to get the job done, or some kind of background noise. But it's really important to remember that there are these little hacks that you can do to help you do the difficult things when they need to get done. And it's really important that you employ them rather than, again, be a victim. I can't do it. My brain doesn't work. I can't, whatever. You can do anything you want. You just need better systems and structures in place if things are not happening for you.
I love that. I love that mentality, because I do think that there is a major message out there, right? And I know you're probably looking down at the time. You're like, how much longer are we going to go? But I know that
episodes tend to go on for a bit long as well.
So we'll get there. Probably no more than 10 minutes. I would imagine. Probably about 5 or so. But I wanted to say that when it comes to the music, for me, like, I used to, oh my gosh, I used to listen to like heavy metal when I was in my late teen years. And then I learned about the brain science of that. And I know I'm going to, make some people sad or angry here or whatever, but I learned about how classical music could help you focus. And also I love the atmospheric music. And I started making the shift, and it took me years to kind of get out of the high stimulation, like heavy metal and the rap and all this stuff. But I found that once I got used to the classical music and it didn't feel so terribly boring anymore, it really did help me focus. And I was able to be much more calm and at ease. And I love the ambiance, like you're saying, that other atmosphere. And I got into lo-fi, actually, just chill lo-fi beats. That's so great for me for focus.
Brilliant. I use heavy metal sounds.
Do you?
When I need to ramp myself up. If I need to get myself into gear for a phone call or for a coaching call, and my energy is a bit low, I will then use heavy metal music. I say heavy metal music. It's one specific thing that I love. There's the Wonder Woman theme tune by Hans Zimmer is really
my gosh.
That is what gets me going. To, like, if I'm too, if my energy is too low. So there is a time and a place for this. Definitely.
Okay. Yeah.
Using it at the right moments.
That's cool. I figured that you'd have, like a more open attitude with it, Ania. That's good. That's good.
I'm very
I like
open to lots of things. Yeah.
Well, hey, last question for you. Unless there was something else you wanted to talk about that you had on your list, and I'm stepping on your toes.
It's your podcast.
That's true. But I know you have a list. I know you're writing a list during the episode.
I was noting things down which I thought were interesting, but I think we've hit all the main points. There was one other thing that I wrote down here. Actually, I'm just going to quickly mention it. Is that okay?
Sure. Great. Do it, please.
You mentioned earlier on how when you first started your business, you had all of these great ideas, but you couldn't break them down into small enough chunks to get anything started.
Yes, 100%.
That's also a neurodivergent thing. So if anyone has ever struggled with that, you are not alone. That's what I wanted to say. And
look, yeah, I love that actually, and I will say with that, I've learned how to work with my brain, and sometimes I forget. I easily forget that how I function. But I was talking to my wife, like, I will get overwhelmed with clutter. I will look at a room that is messy, and a lot of times part of me just, there's just no way. I could never get it cleaned up. It'll never happen. It's too much. And my wife is like, she knows this about me, and she's just like, it's so funny, Jake, that you can like get on calls one-on-one with people and like go deep into addictive issues with them, like stuff that's really serious, yet you look at a cluttered room and you're like completely overwhelmed by it.
That's me too, by the way. I have that same reaction to a cluttered room. When I have to like sort out
Oh
my
my
kids'
gosh.
toys and stuff, I'm like, okay, deep breath.
Right? Yeah, you're breathing. Yes, exactly. Like I need to like sit down and like write out like a handwritten list. Okay, pick up magna tiles first and then grab the stuffed animals and break it down. Because if I can break it down into just small steps, then I can do it. And that's what I have to do with my work. And if it's creative and I'm interested in it, the start can be like slogging through molasses and it's really painful. But once I get going, it's like, I'm gone. But with things that are mundane, right, that day to day, like dishes, I just look at it, I'm just like, oh my gosh, I would rather die. I can't do it. And what I do actually, one of my strategies is honestly, I kneel down and I pray and I say, please God, help me to do this. And I actually center my intention on how it's going to serve my family and the difference it's going to make. And that really helps me a lot. Because then there's a purpose behind it, right? Whereas it's just like a bunch of stupid, dirty dishes versus the purpose.
For me, that it's always about purpose. I'm always connected to the why of what I'm doing, and I think that's such an important thing that you bring up. And I love that you have this spiritual practice that you bring in as well. I don't have a spiritual belief myself. I feel connected to the universe, and I really love nature and that kind of energy and things. But what I wanted to say is that every client that I have ever coached who has a strong spiritual practice is so much easier to coach on account of the fact that they can lean on their practice, and it's so supportive, and it gives such a great grounding and foundation for transformation. And so if someone has that, then leverage it, because you've got something really special there that you can use to help you become the person who you want to be and deserve to be.
Yeah, I love that. It's been so central for me, my relationship with God, and just that ability to pray and to get grounded and to reset my intention and get in touch with that, that power in my life. For recovery and for these challenges with focus and motivation and everything. It's huge. Well, that's actually, my question was going to be about practical solutions, but we've discussed a ton, and that's another one. So I think it's great. I think we're in a good spot. So Ania, if people want to work with you, I'm going to put links in the show notes, but where should they go? And what do you do for people?
So I have my website, aniahulsman.com. It's ANIHULSMAN.com. I'm also on LinkedIn, spelt exactly the same. And what I do for people is this one.
I know what you do for people. I felt horrible when I said that. I know you one-on-one coach people. Do you do group coaching as well? It's all one-on-one, right?
I also do group coaching as well, and that's I don't know if you do that as well, but that's such a beautiful experience because you have the intelligence and the intentions of the collective, and create basically a family vibe where everybody is what's the right word? They're fighting for each other. They're supporting each other in a really passionate way, and I love that. And also people tend to show up for each other more than they do for themselves. So that's a big benefit. I also do workshops and seminars, things like that.
Love it. So people can just go to your website if they want to discover all this and waste with you.
I'm always open to a connection, a virtual coffee, and you can take it from there.
Love it. Thanks so much for coming on, Ania. This was personally just a wonderful experience for me. Such a lovely conversation, and I think it'll help so many people. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to No More Desire. It's a genuine blessing for me to do the work that I do, and I wouldn't be able to do it without you, my listeners, so thank you. If you've enjoyed today's episode, do me a favor.
follow this podcast, hit the notification bell, and shoot me a rating. The more people who do this, the more men this podcast will reach. So take a few minutes of your time and hit those buttons. And if you want to take your sobriety to the next level, check out my free workshop, The 8 Keys to Lose Your Desire for Porn, or my free ebook, The 10 Tools to Conquer Cravings. These are specialized pieces of content that will give you practical exercises and applied solutions to overcome porn addiction. And you can find them at nomoredesire.com. As a listener of the No More Desire podcast, you are part of a worldwide movement of men who are breaking free of porn to live more impactful, meaningful, and selfless lives. So keep learning, keep growing, and keep building that recovery mindset and lifestyle. God bless. Everything expressed on the No More Desire podcast are the opinions of the host and participants and is for informational and educational purposes only. This podcast should not be considered mental health therapy or as a substitute thereof. It is strongly recommended that you seek out the clinical guidance of a qualified mental health professional. If you're experiencing thoughts of suicide, self-harm, or a desire to harm others, please dial 911 or go to your nearest emergency room.